Aloha. Here is a picture of the Hawaiian raven. And there's two things that are really unique about this bird. A lot more things, I'm sure, but two things we're going to concentrate on today that are different from other ravens and important to understanding the situation this wonderful bird is in. First of all, there's a ring of feathers around the eyes of the alala, and they're all pointing out. That's because this bird spent its time foraging in the brush, and when a twig kind of went at it, because it's in thick twigs and brush and things, these feathers would catch the twig and stop it from going in and blinding the eye. The second thing about the alala are these big gnarly feet. He's got huge feet, very well protected by calluses and with very large claws on them, much larger than your normal raven, for climbing around in the brush. He's a climber, not so much a flyer. The alala is a little bit smaller than most ravens. We're going to look at some ravens, common ravens soon. But these huge, big, large feet and the distinctive feathers around the eyes, they're important. Big, gnarly hands, protection against twigs poking them in the eye. These ravens had hundreds of thousands of years living in Hawaii before the Polynesians got here, with people and rats and dogs and pigs and and there were 4 raven species here originally, and this is a smaller one, but it made its living crawling around in the branches and the bushes, not flying. That's kind of important to what's going on now in trying to figure out what's killing these birds out in the so-called wild. Now, here is a picture of the common raven from the San Diego Zoo. You won't see any feathers around the eyes here. And look at the much smaller feet. Now, these ravens are known to be wonderful flyers. They commonly do acrobatics. They harass hawks and eagles. They fly upside down. They're kind of fearless flyers, not used to the bushes like the alala. Yeah, their feet are almost kind of tiny compared to the alala, though it has very large, gnarly feet with lots of protection, very strong for climbing around in the bushes. That was its natural habitat for perhaps millions of years. The alala, evolved in Hawaii, island hopping and making a good living in the bushes off various creatures and things there. National Geographic says common ravens are actually rather remarkable animals. These sleek black birds are excellent and acrobatic flyers, on par with falcons and hawks. Such aerial skills are on display during breeding season. Their average lifespan is about 13 years, in the wild anyway. They come in at about 2.3 pounds. Fairly large birds. The alala is a little smaller, but they'll eat anything. They are survivors. Here, Wikipedia says that the common raven, and there's actually about 8 subspecies with little variation in appearance. They say, well, they can live up to 21 years in the wild. a lifespan surpassed by only a few birds. So they also mate for life, and each mated pair defends a territory. They go on. Common ravens have coexisted with humans for thousands of years, and in some areas have been so numerous people regarded them as pests. But they clean up carrion, insects, berries, fruits, small animals, and food waste, and so they're very practical to have around. Do a little internet research on ravens, and boy, there's a lot of stuff on here. They can talk, huh? And the most intelligent birds in the world, the ravens, yes. And genius birds, they call them. And here's one called Mischief, the talking raven.
So ravens are excellent at mimicking sounds they hear. Mischief, can you say hello?
Hello.
Good bird. He does all sorts of voices. Can you say hi? Hi. Good job. And sometimes he hears people who have a cold. Good job, Mischief.
Okay, here they're running this raven through an intelligence test that the raven's never seen before.
It doesn't like that. Because it's moving.
Here's a puzzle for this raven to solve.
Okay, come on then. Come on then. That's better. Now there is a weak point to get in. And it looks like now he has that is he's got, I think it's safe to put his head in.
Of course, he's never seen this before. Do you know what to do? Go on then, Brown.
Let's get him back. He's just a bit,
A little bit spooked, isn't he?
because it's something new and he doesn't know if it's a trap. So he's just checking it out. I'll see if I can help him out a little. There's a good boy. Yeah, hold on. What's on there? What's there? We're going to go on there? It's safe on there. Look, my hand's on there. There's nothing wrong with that. Took that off. Hold on.
Hi.
Yeah, you're a pretty bird.
This raven's called Sam. Just made a mess of the house.
Got a bunch of fur in that. That's gross.
Found the breadsticks and dunked them in the dog's bowl of water.
Raven ownership. He's pretty cool, though. We put up with it. Because we love him.
Owning a raven is not easy.
Bird.
Not easy.
Bird.
Ravens love to play around. They have all sorts of playthings they do. They irritate. They harass larger birds in the air. So you think you want a pet raven, huh? Well, you can get one on the mainland, a common raven, for about $3,000. But they're not easy. Keeping a raven is not an easy thing. The one man said, having a pet raven is like a flying toddler with a steak knife. Here is one of the common ravens at the Tower of London. The caption is, this is the captive common raven at the Tower of London. It's a shame this bird is so rare these days because they really are beautiful and impressive, intelligent birds. Raven bird eats mice. Raven swallows rats. The folks at Keauhou Bird Sanctuary told me the favorite food of the Alala is baby rats. Wonderful to have around, these ravens. Okay, here is the enemy of the raven. This is the Polynesian rat, Rattus exoans. Notice the white belly. These are ground-dwelling rats, and they eat almost anything on the ground. They have this white belly, it's quite distinctive. Now this rat arrived with the Polynesians, and of course most of the birds in Hawaii had had a million years of evolution on the ground with no predators. And along came the Polynesian rat. And boy, there's eggs all over the ground and little birds all over the ground. And they didn't have a chance against this little Polynesian rat. No. There are really two basic rats to be concerned with here. The Polynesian came along with Hawaiians. But once the Westerners, the Europeans, came along, we had to deal with the Norway and the roof rat. Very different kinds of rats. Yeah, they call them roof rats. I see them outside my house at night. They run through the trees just like squirrels. They basically eat fruit and nuts. They don't go down on the ground much. And very different from a ground rat. These are tree rats. They have long tails. They're all black. And it's hard to see them at night. But, boy, they will wipe out a bird's egg in a nest in a tree really fast. So now we got rats on the ground, and when the white man came into Hawaii, we got rats in the trees. Here is a mongoose, ground-dwelling predators, brought in by planters to Hawaii to hunt down the rats that were in the cane fields. Of course, the mongoose, hunts during the day and the rat hunts at night. They didn't see each other much. But these guys are predators, and the minor birds hate them. They go after them whenever they see them, and these guys are real killers of birds. Now the interesting thing is that there's no mongoose on Kauai. And if you go to Kauai, you'll find all over Kauai are wild chickens. Yeah, the original jungle fowl is wild on Kauai and gets along because there's no mongoose there. There are rats, but generally I used to see a little wild chicken with 9 chicks going behind it. And every day a chick would disappear until finally only 1 or 2 that stood between the mother's legs survived. But that was rats. On the other islands of Hawaii, there are no wild chickens because the mongoose is there. Okay, here is the Hawaiian hawk. Right now, only on the Big Island. They're kind of almost endangered. They weigh about the same as the large alala, the eo, and are being blamed for the death of the alalas, which I'm a little bit unsure about, because the alala is a large bird, and he doesn't go around flying. The hawk is a flying bird, excellent flying ability, whereas the alala is a bird that crawls around in the brush. Now, the alala, when it's in its fledgling stage, if they get to the place where they have babies that hatch, the little birds, when they're getting their feathers, climb down out of the nest to the ground and walk around and start climbing around in bushes. Yes, not like a normal raven at all. So they're walking around, they're babies, and the mongoose and the dog and the cat and the rats and the hawk, they'll pick off a baby alala anytime, Lots of information on the Hawaiian hawk, but here they say to survive, the hawk needs its primary source of food, which is rats. smaller birds and rats and insects, and a stable habitat to survive. Not much stability in the Hawaiian environment anymore for the hawk or the raven or the goose. They're all in trouble because the environment's gone bad. We've used it all up, folks. Now, let's go back to some basics, Yep. 1778. Captain James Cook and his two co-captains were here in Hawaii. And what did they do? They were looking after the birds, the animals, the people, the culture, what they ate, what they fished. That's what they did all over the world, all over the Pacific. That's what Captain Cook and his two co-captains did. And everywhere he went, he estimated the population of the natives, of the traditional people living in that area, by counting rooftops from offshore. And about the west coast of the island of Hawaii, he wrote, 200,000 people lived along this coast. The most common house pet was a large black bird. Yep, alala. Okay, let's get to the problem at hand. We have a bunch of wonderful heroes. There was only 2 or 3 ravens and 2 or 3 geese, and they went out and found them and kept them and propagated them. And now we have, well, at least the goose is doing a little better, but they're just went to the golf courses. Now, we've learned lately that half of all the species in the world are going to be extinct by 2050. Yeah, global warming. Our Hawaiian environment is going bad quickly. So we're going to have to pick and choose which of these amazing animals in our world we're going to keep. We can't keep them in the wild. You can't take a mountain gorilla and reintroduce him in the wild. No, the environment's gone. Or the whales and porpoise. You know, these are the intelligent ones. You pick the most intelligent thing in the ocean, it's the whale and the porpoise. The most intelligent of the two-leggeds, besides us, is the mountain gorilla. Well, how about the orangutan? How about the chimpanzee? You know, the most intelligent of birds is the alala. And they're not going to survive in the wild. I mean, we can't even, they don't survive even a few days in the wild, much less go there and breed, okay? And they say, oh yeah, it was the eel that got them. I'm not so sure. They may have starved and the eel went to pick their bones. But they're going to, you know, they're ramping up for more releases, and they're going to try to condition, you know, young female birds to recognize the eel as a predator. Folks, I got a BA in psychology, and I had my own rat. I know a lot about animal behavior. Aversive conditioning? No. It's not going to work for these birds. Besides, the eel isn't the real cause of death here. I think it just picked up the carcasses. But we don't know exactly what they did. Except they're going to, you know, more birds will be released. Oh boy. A total of 12. Now, you know, this is we got to reverse this policy, folks. We got to reverse it. Here's the thing. It ain't easy to keep a Hawaiian raven. One guy on the internet who has one says, well, first of all, no children. Ravens are big and they're very mischievous, and they'll fly around and peck your head and it hurts. And they'll laugh. You know, they torture torture the big raptors, the eagles and the hawks, and laugh in the air. You see them around Grand Canyon. So these are very mischievous birds, these ravens, and they're not being released into the wild. They're being evicted out of their homes, and these are sensitive birds. I mean, they got an IQ like a 7 or 8 year old. So what do we do? What you have to do is reverse your policy, folks. We have to start training people to keep ravens. Yeah, zoos, hotels, anybody that wants one, but you can't just go and buy one for $3,000 like on the mainland and then be disappointed. No, you got to be trained. So the folks at the sanctuaries have to reverse their policy and start training people, put out a couple, a mated male and female. Pedigrees are necessary so they don't interbreed with other ravens. but send them out to different people and places where they'll be happy. They'll be happy in zoos. I mean, for 1,000 years they were happy in Hawaiian homes. So they should have pedigrees. They should be expensive. And the folks that are now training them to release them in the wild, well, they need to train people to keep them in captivity. Otherwise, they're going to go the same way as the cheetah or the, what are you going to say? The tiger, the cheetah, the puma? Come on, folks. Can't save them all. So, reverse your policy. Instead of releasing them, throwing them out, we need to get people who want to keep them, license those people, train them, be there when they have trouble, and save these birds. That's what it's really all about. Yeah, a case of mistaken identity. Neither the goose nor the raven were wild birds. Sure enough, all the Hawaiians had died, and both of these birds took off for the hills, and they didn't live very well there, so they were dying up in the hills and the forests. So when the experts came along with the new law about extinction, they did good. They trapped the last few geese and the last few ravens and started raising them in captivity. The problem is they think they can release them into the wild. And that doesn't work. There's no more wild for these guys to go to. So the geese are living on golf courses. Those that finally wound up over by Volcanoes National Park, half of the flock died one year because the guys at the park thought they couldn't feed these animals. Oh no, they're on the extinction list. They're protected. You can't feed them. You can't keep them. It needs to change. You need to be able to keep the goose on your farm. They're wonderful, wonderful pets. You need to be able to keep the raven if you're well trained in your house. They're wonderful. They talk. They keep the place clean. But releasing them in the wild is nonsense. Once you realize that for 1,000 years these two birds were domesticated, then you see that it's folly, just folly to release them in the wild. I mean, would you throw your little Cocker Spaniel dog out in the forest and expect him to survive? No, you wouldn't. From Cook's journals, there was a quote about a small goose the size of a Muscovy duck was given in trade. This small goose. Captain King was the one of the three that really got out there and roamed around in the original Hawaii. In fact, when Captain Clerk took the boats and we're going back to England, the Hawaiians wanted Captain King to stay there, but he couldn't. Anyway, Captain King wrote about the raven and the goose a lot. And we need to save these birds. As to their next plan, they're going to go up higher. Won't do much good. And they're going to try to give them food. They already did that. And they're trying to do something about aversive conditioning. That won't work. More birds will be released at once, a total of 12. 2 males who survived the first attempt survived it for 5 days. 7 females and 3 more males. Oh, doggone it. These people are stubborn. I think they're afraid they might lose their federal grant if they don't keep trying to put these birds out into the forest. But the forest is leaving us. Yeah, the ohia trees are dying, and we're infected with several kinds of rats and mongoose, and there's a lot of avian flu around. And this business of the predator, that goes back to the 90s when they first started. The EO is not the problem here. There's like 20 problems that kill these birds. And you can't even keep them alive and out there for a few days. How are you going to hope they're going to reproduce? Not got a chance. So, if you know this man, his name is Ka-aha-Aina. Aina means the earth. He needs to be told, you know, that he's barking up the wrong tree. And these birds are not going to survive, and they're certainly not going to reproduce. So we need to change the whole idea and use the experts over there to train people to keep ravens, license them, sell them at good profit. You know, $3,000 on the mail-in for a common raven. That's pretty good. So they can make some money this way. They got 100 birds left. Let's not waste them, folks. So these guys are going to bring in this expert that's working on the Puerto Rican parrots who have a native raptor and require aversive training. Training consists of a 3-day program where a raven and an eel are placed at opposite ends of an enclosure, separated by a barrier but able to see each other. And that's going to go on for 3 days, and they think that's going to enough aversive conditioning. Come on, folks. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Obviously, these people know nothing about animal behavior and nothing about this most intelligent member of Corvus, the raven, or they wouldn't try to do this. Konrad Lorenz is one of the old geniuses of animal behavior. He wrote a book called The Year of the Gray-Lag Goose. And at the end of studying the goose, he said, next to the dog, the goose is man's best friend. You still see him in the old movies. Little flocks of them running around in the open farmyard. So the goose is a really wonderful bird. You also know that the raven is all over the world one of man's best buddies. Will we lose our 2 best bird friends to government laws poorly applied? It's not really like the tiger or elephant, you know. These birds are humanity's best friends.